Bathroom Breaks and Bedtime Tales presents What the Children Knew by Sevastian Winters. The morning chime sounded. I raised my hand and began the chant, the familiar words automatic in my throat. None of the children joined me. I stopped after the first line. 26 students gazed back quietly, faces calm, eyes steady, mouths closed. Behind me, the speaker continued softly, a recorded voice echoing the chant alone. My hand fell slowly to my side. "Why aren't we speaking?" I asked. Emma glanced at her classmates, then raised her hand. When I nodded, she spoke simply. "We know the words," she said. "We just don't want to say them anymore." Leo shifted in his seat, but no one else moved. The speaker finished, leaving silence between us. At lunchtime, I sat at my desk, scrolling through the civic curriculum. Every lesson was carefully crafted to pass on what we'd learned. Each activity and ceremony meant to ensure the past wasn't forgotten. Through the open door, I watched the students quietly eating, sharing food, passing notes, and smiling easily. None of them seemed disturbed by what had happened. I felt like the only one unsettled. After school, Emma lingered by my desk as the others filed out. She stood quietly, waiting until we were alone. "I'm sorry about this morning," she said. "You don't need to apologize," I replied gently. "I just want to understand." She considered carefully, looking down at her shoes, then back at me. "Our parents say the chant because they lived through it," she explained softly. "They need it to feel safe, but we already feel safe. We don't want their fear." She smiled faintly, almost apologetic, and left before I could respond. The classroom was quiet, desks empty, sunlight touching the walls, illuminating all the neatly posted lessons, words we had taught them to recite, but never to question. The next morning, I didn't start the chant. The speakers crackled on cue, filling the room with the official voice, steady and reassuring. I waited quietly, watching as the students calmly took their seats, unpacking notebooks, opening tablets, and carrying on as if nothing were happening overhead. No discomfort, no defiance, only quiet indifference. I glanced down at the lesson plan on my tablet, the carefully structured narrative of remembrance and vigilance. Every exercise, every word, shaped to bind them to memories they hadn't lived, lessons they'd inherited but never chosen. "Do you feel safe?" I asked suddenly, breaking the silence. Heads turned, curious but calm. Leo raised his eyes first, thoughtful. "Yes," he said simply. "You understand why we do this? Why we repeat these words every day?" Emma nodded patiently. "Because you don't want to forget." I hesitated. "Aren't you worried what could happen if we do?" Leo shook his head gently. "We don't need to remember fear to avoid it." After school, my colleagues gathered in the faculty lounge. I stood by the coffee pot, quietly listening as the room buzzed with careful frustration, hushed anxiety. "My class won't chant anymore," another teacher said worriedly. They're respectful, polite, but they just refuse. It's disrespectful, someone else murmured. They don't understand the cost. I set my cup down softly. Maybe they understand something we don't, I said. The room quieted abruptly. Faces turned, wary, uncertain. "What are you saying?" someone asked. I looked at them, tired eyes, gentle fears. Maybe we're the ones who haven't moved on. That evening, I sat alone in my classroom, the twilight deepening quietly through the windows. I studied the rows of empty chairs, neat desks arranged just as I'd taught them to keep them. On the walls, posters repeated slogans meant to protect them from a past they'd never known. Slowly, I stood and walked to the nearest one, carefully lifting the edge and peeling it away. Behind it, the paint was brighter, untouched by time, the difference subtle but unmistakable. I stepped back, heart beating softly, understanding settling into my chest. We'd spent years teaching children to chant the past, but they had quietly, yet insistently, chosen the future.